Do you ever wonder if you're too sensitive? What can you do about it? I'm here with Jackie, who is wanting to tap on some feelings of being told too often that you're too sensitive. Would you like to share just a little bit?
Sure. Hi, Kathy. I think I might not be comfortable with lots of groups of people or a lot of friends because I might be bothered by things that somebody else might not be bothered by. So if I get hurt or upset, I think I don't like being perceived as too sensitive or difficult.
Okay. So there's the fear of being judged, the fear that people will see you as being troublesome or sensitive or too much work.
Yes, because I've experienced it.
Yeah. Okay. And so you tend to avoid large groups of people. You like to hang out just with people that you feel comfortable with, that you know are probably going to be okay with it?
Well, sometimes I don't feel like I'm okay with anybody.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And I think maybe around the holidays it's a lot of people and a lot of stimulation, and maybe after the holidays I feel like, yeah, I could use some alone time because everybody bugged me for some reason or another.
Yeah. So I would... the way I think of this is there's introversion and extroversion, and people are all wired different ways. But on top of that, there's something. Shyness means that an insecurity mean that I'm not sure how I interact with other people. There's some kind of shame associated with it, and it sounds like you have mixed together introversion and some shyness or insecurity around other people, which can make you even more wanting to be away from people than just the introversion itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think though that it's more the fact if I object to something, then there's something wrong with me, which makes me want to withdraw.
Okay. So you don't get to have a voice because what you want might not be right.
Right.
Because often because you're too sensitive to what other people want as being not okay.
Right. So if someone does something to hurt me and I object, then there's something wrong with me for having gotten hurt.
Okay. And you've shared before that your parents often didn't have a lot of resources and were sometimes judgmental because of that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is it possible, and I'm just talking to the intellectual part of you right now, we'll do some tapping in just a minute. Looking at it intellectually, if someone came to you and said, anytime I object to something, I was told I was too sensitive, do you think there might be some ulterior motive there, that they might be telling you that because that was a way to shut you up? If someone else...
Oh, sure. But
yeah.
It's part of my
identity,
wiring, and probably part of most of my relationships.
Yeah. Okay. So take a nice, slow, deep breath. Feel your feet on the floor, wiggle your toes, feel your butt in your seat. And when you think the words, I'm too sensitive, what do you feel in your body?
That's interesting. I kind of shut off.
Okay, just a cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
If you could feel past the cutoff, what do you...
Actually, pain in my chest.
Okay, all right. And can you ask that pain in your chest what it wants to say?
I'm tired of people.
Okay. If you knew a person would say, let's name someone named Amy. If Amy never felt that you were too sensitive, would you be tired of her?
I don't know.
Okay.
It depends on how interesting she was.
Okay, but if a given person was pretty interesting and you knew she was not going to say you're too sensitive, she knew she would respect your boundaries, do you think that you would be so tired of her?
No.
Okay, good. So take another slow deep breath. Karate chop. Even though I'm really tired of people.
Even though I'm really tired of people.
I think they're all just like mom and dad.
I think they're all just like mom and dad.
And some of them actually are.
And some of them actually are.
They don't have the energy for my boundaries.
They don't have the energy for my boundaries.
They want me just to do what they want to do.
They want me just to do what they want to do.
And they want me to do it how they want to do it.
And they want me to do it how they want to do it.
And if I don't, I'm too sensitive.
And if I don't, I'm too sensitive.
What if I'm not too sensitive?
What if I'm not too sensitive?
What if I'm just sensitive enough?
What if I'm just sensitive enough?
And they have crappy boundaries.
And they have crappy boundaries.
I've been internalizing the problem.
I've been internalizing the problem.
They told me it was me.
They told me it was me.
And it might be about them.
And it might be about them.
And it might not be about all people.
And it might not be about all people.
Top of the head, they blamed me.
They blamed me.
Eyebrow, they said I was too sensitive.
They said I was too sensitive.
Side of the eye, if I didn't like everything they did.
If I didn't like everything they did.
Under the eye and the way they did it.
And the way they did it.
Under the nose, I was too sensitive.
I was too sensitive.
Chin, maybe I'm not too sensitive.
Maybe I'm not too sensitive.
Collarbone, but they told me that for so long.
But they told me that for so long.
Under the arm, and they seemed to agree.
And they seemed to agree.
Top of the head, it also seemed to work.
It also seemed to work.
Eyebrow, I was just little.
I was just little.
Side of the eye, but I believed them.
But I believed them.
Under the eye, I swallowed that story.
I swallowed that story.
Under the nose, and other people see that it works too.
And other people see that it works too.
Chin, if they imply I'm too sensitive.
If they imply I'm too sensitive.
Collarbone, I shut up.
I shut up.
Under the arm, I also withdraw.
I also withdraw.
Top of the head, but it works.
But it works.
Eyebrow, I tend to comply.
I tend to comply.
Side of the eye, but I don't want to comply anymore.
But I don't want to comply anymore.
Under the eye, I want to get to be me.
I want to get to be me.
Under the nose, and that doesn't mean listening to everybody else.
And that doesn't mean listening to everybody else.
Chin, I hate being controlled.
I hate being controlled.
Collarbone, and they're controlling me with this too sensitive stuff.
And they're controlling me with this too sensitive stuff.
Under the arm, I'm not open to hearing this anymore.
I'm not open to hearing this anymore.
Top of the head, I am not too sensitive.
I am not too sensitive.
Eyebrow, I may not be everybody's cup of tea.
I may not be everybody's cup of tea.
Side of the eye, certainly they're not all mine.
Certainly they're not all mine.
Under the eye, but I get to set boundaries with anyone I work with.
But I get to set boundaries with anyone I work with.
Under the nose, and I get to set boundaries with anyone I hang out with.
And I get to set boundaries with anyone I hang out with.
Chin, if they don't like my boundaries.
If they don't like my boundaries.
Collarbone, we don't have to hang out.
We don't have to hang out.
Under the arm, I get to say no.
I get to say no.
Top of that, I get to request other things.
I get to request other things.
Eyebrow, I get to say what I don't like.
I get to say what I don't like.
Side of the eye, maybe they think I'm too sensitive.
Maybe they think I'm too sensitive.
Under the eye, but I'd like to embrace my own power.
But I'd like to embrace my own power.
Under the nose, and filter out the people that can't handle me.
And filter out the people that can't handle me.
Chin, some people like compliance.
Some people like compliance.
Collarbone, I'm not a good fit for them.
I'm not a good fit for them.
Under the arm, I actually know what I like.
I actually know what I like.
Top of the head, and I really enjoy finding that.
And I really enjoy finding that.
Take a nice deep breath. Have you noticed that some people just go along with just about anything?
Yes, and I don't understand that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just don't even know what they want. I work with clients all the time that they're like, I don't know what I like or what I want, so how can I create that? How can I ask for it? And if we've worked together for a while, in the beginning, there was a time when you had trouble identifying it.
Yes.
You've done a tremendous amount of work on yourself. So you actually know what you want.
Most of the time.
Right. So other people, there's a lot of people that don't know what they want, and other people just like, I want to do this, and they're like, okay. So there is a lot of compliance and just like, okay, that's fine, whatever you want to do. And you don't have to be that way.
Right, but I think I was still perceived as too sensitive or difficult even before I knew what I wanted, because I think when I would get upset, I would be so upset I didn't express it in a way that wasn't perceived as difficult or too sensitive.
Okay. So you have a child and you've raised them through the terrible twos and threes, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Were they always graceful when they first learned to say no?
No.
You never got to practice that a lot when you were a little kid, right?
No, I think I was probably penalized if I didn't do what was expected.
Yeah. So you were a little bit older than the average 2 and 3-year-old when you got to practice your nose.
I don't think I've gotten to practice it yet.
Okay. Well, I think
I'm
you're doing.
working on it.
You're working
We're
on it.
working on it.
Yeah. But you've gotten much, much better at it.
Yes, but I think my difficulty seems to be when I feel blindsided by something and I'm not in the frame of mind to respond rather than react, and reacting just always seems to get me perceived as too sensitive or difficult.
Okay. Well, humans often will not, like, we're taught that it's not safe to speak up. So we wait until the pressure builds and then we kind of blow it out. Like, it's much louder than we necessarily
Right.
need it to be. And when we're first, like, if we're awkward at it, a little kid, when they first learn no's, they're not very nice about it. They're like, no, 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 no. And they'll throw a huge temper tantrum. So it's normal. I mean, just to normalize it, that's really what people go through. Whether that happens when they're 2 and 3 or 40 or 80, it's like we learn how to do that kind of thing awkwardly. So if you can give yourself some, compassion for the fact that it might be a little awkward, you might have done it awkwardly, but you're also learning how to do it with more gentleness now.
Right. Well, the other thing is if somebody says with authority that you do something, then, or if somebody says it to me, like I have a friend and they'll say something with great authority, and then I feel like I need to defend myself.
Okay.
So I don't speak up because I don't want to have a fight.
Yeah.
And yet I feel I had to defend myself.
Yeah. Okay. So if you didn't defend yourself, I'm not suggesting you not, but I'm just curious. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't.
What would that mean about you if you didn't defend yourself?
Well, I think I'm torn between understanding maybe somebody else has an absolute need to give advice all the time, and I'm okay if I don't want it.
Yeah.
And the way they said it with authority, like there's something wrong with me because I don't want it.
Okay.
So mostly I don't buy it, but
Okay.
there's a little part of me that
worries.
like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't like people to tell me authoritatively what to do either. In fact, Rick works for Thriving Out, and I did a call yesterday where we talked about how to talk to people. If someone comes up and tells me you need to do this, you should do this, I'm like, never want to do that thing again, even if it was something I wanted to do. And I have to, I'm like releasing that compulsion. But if someone says, hey, have you considered doing the very same thing, I might feel really grateful. So what if it's not about you, but the way they're speaking?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In not speaking up, I do a lot of analysis. And
Yeah.
that was the thing, that if somebody rings my doorbell and wants to sell me something, I'm not the bad guy if I don't answer or I say no.
Right.
And yet if somebody wants to give me advice and I don't want it, then I'm the bad guy for not wanting it.
Karate chop. Even though I feel like the bad guy.
Even though I feel like the bad guy.
And they say I'm the bad guy.
And they say I'm the bad guy.
What if I'm not the bad guy?
What if I'm not the bad guy?
Even though I must be the bad guy.
Even though I must be the bad guy.
Because everyone agrees I'm the bad guy.
Because everybody agrees I'm the bad guy.
But I don't want that advice.
But I don't want the advice.
And I don't want the authority.
And I don't want the authority.
I did not give consent for you to boss me around.
I didn't give consent for you to boss me around.
I may be quiet.
I may be quiet.
But you do not have my consent to boss me around.
But you do not have my consent to boss me around.
Top of the head, I didn't invite this.
I didn't invite this.
Eyebrow, you can ask if I want advice.
You can ask if I want advice,
Side
or
of-
I will ask for it.
Yeah, side of the eye, but you don't get to shove it down my throat.
But you don't get to shove it down my throat.
Under the eye, stop bossing me around.
Stop bossing me around.
Under the nose, I'm an intelligent adult.
I'm an intelligent adult.
Chin, stop bossing me around.
Stop bossing me around.
Collarbone, I did not consent to this.
I did not consent to this.
Under the arm, it's making me mad.
It's making me mad.
Top of the head, you're bossing me around.
You're bossing me around.
Eyebrow, and telling me I'm the bad guy.
And telling me I'm the bad guy.
Side of the eye, but you're violating my consent.
But you're violating my consent.
Under the eye, you never asked.
You never asked.
Under the nose, you just assumed.
You just assumed.
Chin, and that's actually really rude.
And that's actually really rude.
Collarbone, what if I'm not the bad guy?
What if I'm not the bad guy?
Under the arm, I didn't consent to this.
I didn't consent to this.
Top of the head, and I say no.
And I say no.
Take a nice deep breath. What are you noticing?
Well, that gave you chest pains.
Oh no, tune into it and notice what's going on.
It hurts.
Okay, ask your chest why it hurts.
It hurts my heart. I think in a way I feel manipulated, but I feel judged really unfairly.
Okay. And what do you, is that in your heart or do you feel that elsewhere?
Maybe only someone I trust can do that. And so I guess, I don't know where this is coming from. I guess I feel betrayed.
Because they're throwing advice at you?
No, because I'm saying I don't want it, and then I'm judged something negative for not wanting it.
Okay. And if you could speak to someone, what words would you use? If you could speak up in the moment and say, don't accuse me of that, what words would you use? I mean, let's just make up something.
Well, first of all, if I want advice, I don't have a problem asking.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, this may be another topic. I think for so much of my life, I wanted somebody else to be the authority.
Yeah.
And we worked really hard to get to a place where I wanted to be my own authority.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think it's like a challenge to me every time somebody comes off as if they want to be my authority.
They're undermining.
And I think it's hard with old relationships because I'm the one who's changed.
Yeah, but we also get to train people. I've had to do that too as I've grown and say, hey, I know in the past this was okay and I never said a word, but now I want you to treat me differently. And
right.
it does take courage to do that, and it takes practice.
And it's sometimes, I'm seriously, this one hurt and I got really hot. I think what happens for me sometimes is I don't have the words in the moment. And when the moment passes, there's no time to have that conversation again.
Okay.
So now it's not one thing, now it's 6 things.
Okay. Have you ever thought of writing someone an email and saying, hey, there wasn't time in the moment, but when you said XYZ, it really made me feel this way. And I'd really would like you not to do that in the future?
Well, yes, but that pushes a button because I've been the recipient of letters like that, and they weren't particularly positive. So
Okay.
I hesitate to do something that felt like an attack when I was the recipient.
Okay, so let me just suggest something and you can see if that makes a difference.
Okay.
So if I just sent an email and said, Jackie, that time when we were talking and you said that I hurt your feelings and I should do XYZ, when you said that really hurt and I'm kind of angry at it, versus, hey, Jackie, I really love our friendship. I especially liked when we were talking the other day and it felt really close to you. And because our friendship matters so much, I'd like to clear something up that's been kind of bothering me. As I've been clearing a lot of energy and owning my own power, I notice that sometimes you give advice in a way that, while very caring, lands to me like you're telling me what to do. And I've noticed that I feel resistant and I don't always hear what you're offering because of that, and I want a really clear, loving relationship between us. Would you be willing to consider when you're giving me advice to ask if I'd like it first and then offer it in a gentler tone? Again, I really care about what we have together, and I'd love for it to be even easier. Love, Jackie.
Okay. So can you write me that?
Well, one, I can send you the transcript of what I just said,
Okay.
but it's called an appreciation sandwich,
Okay.
where you tell them something you really appreciate about them, you tell them the thing you want to change, and then you tell them something else you appreciate about them, but you also link in that you care about the relationship. You're telling them why, and you can even tell them what you're afraid of. Like, I'm afraid that by talking to you, you might be really angry at me, and that's called the difficult conversation formula. Reed Mahalko has it on his site at readaboutsex.com, but it's just kind of weaving those two together, the appreciation sandwich and the difficult conversation formula. So you can tell them, why they matter, that you're doing this because you care about them. You can tell them what you're afraid will happen. And you can tell them that you really care about something that they did, that it really touched you. Ask them for something different. Ask them to change a certain behavior. And then with, again, I really appreciate you. I love what the joy you bring into my life, like appreciation again. And then invite them to talk to you about it.
Okay.
So there's very different ways you can approach it. You can approach it very gently, and with appreciation, because you're hanging out with that person because you care about them in some way, or you probably wouldn't be there.
Right.
And so if you can appreciate them and say, hey, listen, I know things have changed. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. I've never asked for this before. I am asking for this now. Would you be willing to do this, or at least try?
Okay.
Does that feel like it might be okay? You could do a form letter even and send it out to everyone who knows you this way.
All 3 people in my life, huh?
You have more than that, I know. So just something to consider in the back of your head, because if you're speaking, it's hard to speak up in the moment. A lot of us have that problem.
Right.
And the thing for me, it's not about necessarily speaking up in the moment, but it's turnaround time. I prefer not to find out from someone, and this has happened to me. Someone a year later sent me an email about all the things I did wrong during a visit, and I was like, you didn't speak up at all. In fact, you said things were good. I was like, wow, that landed really heavy. Versus someone who a week later says, hey, I've just been thinking about this, and I'd like to just get this off my chest because our relationship matters to me. I think that's fine. And it's not saying you can't reach out to someone a year later, but I think it's important to own, like, hey, I haven't spoken up in the past.
So when that happened, how did you process that about the things that you had done wrong?
I was very hurt at first. I did a lot of tapping. The person wasn't someone I was super invested in, and I wasn't really, close to them. So I did a little cleanup conversation with them, but I was basically at the time we were talking, I was genuinely trying to be a friend. I was trying to help. You gave me positive feedback at the time. You didn't ask for anything different. And I'm feeling unsafe being around you because I know that you can't speak up now. I appreciate you speaking up, I just wanted to, I ended the relationship. If it had been someone I was deeply invested in, someone I cared with, I would say, wow, I'm so sorry that you couldn't speak up before. I'm really glad you are now. I have feelings, but I want to be there for you too. And I would talk with them about it.
Okay.
So, but again, you don't have to lay for this email, it was, this communication was like everything I did wrong versus a request like, hey, please don't do this in the future. You did nothing wrong, but now I'm asking for this thing to do different. Right,
but what I'm taking away from that is that as even as I think you are, and as healthy as I think you are, and as balanced as I think you are, you were still hurt.
I was still hurt, but it wasn't. It was not in a difficult conversation or appreciation sandwich. There was no appreciation, and it was a list of things I did wrong with no request for something different.
Right, so it was the kitchen sink.
Yeah. So I'm encouraging, if you do this, pick one thing and talk to the person about it, and see how that goes. You can start with someone who's not super close to you, so it's not. I always start with baby steps. Start lifting the easy weights first. Speaking up, and it could be hey, last week when we had coffee, I loved our conversation. I loved spending time with you. I would like our relationship to be even closer and warmer. And I noticed something that bothered me. I'm a little afraid to talk to you about it. I'm afraid you'll feel hurt, and that's not my intention at all. I would really love it if, we actually ended up even closer, like I said. And I never spoke up before. This is not your fault, but I'm noticing that this particular thing bothers me. And I would really love it if you could be more gentle when you offer advice, or at least ask me if I want it first.
Mm-hmm.
I would hear it so much better, and I know that you have a lot of caring and love behind the words you share with me. So that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely makes sense. I'm just filing away how I would do it, but no, it makes complete sense. I think.
Well, I'll send you the transcript for this video so that you can copy it.
Part of it is not, well, for me anyway. The difficulty is when I don't deal with the one thing,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it was only one time,
Right.
and then it happens again,
Yeah.
and I didn't deal with the first one. At some point, I'm not dealing with the one thing, I'm dealing with the 6 that happened before, and then I'm not responding, I'm reacting, which,
Right.
well, you know what happens when somebody who's too sensitive reacts.
Let's just tap on that. Is that okay?
It's fine.
Deep breath. Good. Karate chop. Even though I'm reacting,
Even though I'm reacting,
and I have all this built up resentment,
and I've had all this built up resentment,
and I'm really angry.
and I'm really angry.
This is not okay.
This is not okay.
And they should have figured this out.
And they should have figured this out.
And I should have spoken up earlier.
And I should have spoken up earlier.
What if I can forgive all of us?
What if I can forgive all of us?
What if I can be present with now?
What if I can be present with now
and tap out all this anger,
and tap out all this anger,
and then ask for what I really need?
and then ask for what I really need?
Top of the head. I don't have to write it in anger.
I don't have to write it in anger.
Eyebrow. I can tap out some of my anger.
I can tap out some of my anger.
Side of the eye. And promise to be there for myself in the future.
And promise to be there for myself in the future.
Under the eye. Hey, self.
Hey, self.
Under the nose. I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner.
I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner.
Chin. And I'm going to say something now.
I'm going to say something now.
Collarbone. As soon as I calm down a little bit.
As soon as I calm down a little bit.
Under the arm. I can even write the email now.
I can even write the email now.
Top of the head. And then rewrite it tomorrow.
And then rewrite it tomorrow.
Eyebrow. Right before I send it.
Right before I send it.
Side of the eye. It's okay to release some of this energy.
It's okay to release some of this energy.
Under the eye. And with appreciation and calmness, ask for what I want.
And with appreciation and calmness, ask for what I want.
Under the nose. I can release this anger.
I can release this anger.
Chin. I don't have to blow up all over them.
I don't have to blow up all over them.
Collarbone. I wish they could have gotten what I needed without me saying anything.
I wish they could have gotten what I needed without me saying anything.
Under the arm. And they didn't.
And they didn't.
Top of the head. Humans sometimes don't get things.
Humans sometimes don't get things.
Eyebrow. Words really help.
Words really help.
Side of the eye. And I know what I want now.
And I know what I want now.
Under the eye. So I can use my words.
So I can use my words.
Under the nose. And I'll honor my own needs.
And I'll honor my own needs.
Chin. That kind of rocks.
That kind of rocks.
Collarbone. I like that about me.
I like that about me.
Under the arm. I get to use my words.
I get to use my words.
Top of the head. And create the friends I want to hang around with.
And create the friends I want to hang around with.
Nice deep breath. Have you
Well,
ever?
I don't have the pain.
Good. That's wonderful. I'm glad for your heart too. But have you ever had friends that like you started to do something and like, no, I'm not okay with that. Like nicely, like not reactive, but like, no, that action is not okay. But I'd love to hang out and do other things. Have you ever had anyone kind of? I really do think people teach us how to treat them.
Okay.
I
can't think of it in the moment.
I can think of some examples, but I don't want to use specifics that you've shared with your husband and your daughter where they're like, nope, not that. And you're like, oh, okay. I do think we teach people how to treat us. And by you speaking up gently, and again, I'll send you the transcript. You can write it in your own words a little bit. I would encourage you to send that to as many people as you feel comfortable to. Like one at a time, and tap on your feelings as it comes up. Because if you start speaking up for yourself, you'll find a whole new level of freedom. And I bet some of the resentment you feel about people trying to control you or wanting you to be more malleable or fit their needs better, by you speaking up, I bet there'll be a little less pressure on that. Because you're like, no, I get to stand here. And you can even say as part of the conversation, one of my fears is that you'll say I'm too sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
That's
okay, I like that.
Yeah, so kind of owning it, like, and and I also want to be able to honor my own needs and have you hear them and respect them. And you can do it, like, again, I would start with someone that you care about, but that's not super important if they react a little bit strongly, and tap on all the feelings that come up and see what they say, deal with them, then maybe find the next person and go through the list. Because as you own what you need, as you say, I am asking for this, one, you're going to
Yes.
you will filter some people out. Some people are going to be like, nope, that's ridiculous. And you're like, okay, I
And
don't,
I'll be down to 3.
well, perhaps, but you'll have 3 people that you can talk to and a whole bunch of new skills to meet new people. It's not like if other people go away that you'll never find anyone else again.
I'm not really worried because I'm okay by myself.
That's true, but you've also been having more and more people show up in your life.
Yes, yes. And I enjoy people when I enjoy them.
Yeah.
I think perhaps another time we could tap on speaking up.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I think we should come back and do that.
I think I would like that if you would do that.
Absolutely. Please leave comments below. We'd love to know what you think, what's coming up for you around this. And we'll be back another time doing Speaking Up because it's a very big deal for a lot of people. Thanks so much, Jackie.
Thank you, Kathy.